I went from working a pretty normal week to 80-hour weeks, which was a big change.
Financial stress is equivalent to torture, they reckon. So being able to remove that, is obviously a big benefit.
Hello and welcome to the Health Business Podcast. Ethan and I are your hosts, and today we've had the pleasure of interviewing Katelyn Swallow.
Katelyn is a journalist who landed her first job at the magazine publication Women's Health. Then, in a few short years, went on to become the editor-in-chief. Now, Katelyn is the editor-in-chief of her own health and fitness magazine, Strong Fitness. On top of that, she runs her own organisation that helps brands and individuals better present themselves to the media. If you want the inside tips and tricks on how to get your brand into the media, then this is for you.
Inside this podcast, you will learn that going from 0 to 100 may not be the best idea for you, what it means to back yourself and take a leap, and exactly what not to say when pitching yourself to the media.
Welcome, Katelyn. Katelyn, thanks for coming on in.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, that's all right. Well, look, for those that don't know who you are and your story, can you give us the 45-second elevator pitch of who is Katelyn Swallow?
I always tell people to have the elevator pitch like down pat, but when it's me, I'm always like, I'm a country girl from, since forever. My family, a fourth generation farming family. Did my undergrad in Perth and then came over to Melbourne about 6 years ago, did my master's in journalism, and now I work an 80-hour week. I run my own business, copywriting and media training for fitness and lifestyle brands. And I work full-time at a university in the media unit, doing some of their communications work. And then I also am the editor-in-chief of Strong Fitness Magazine Australia, which just launched last October.
Very busy.
Very busy.
Very busy.
I enjoy it though.
Yeah, I bet. And so editor-in-chief, right? So journalism, has that been something that you've always wanted to do?
Yes. Yeah. Dad likes to tell a story where I was 8 years old when I decided I wanted to be a journalist. He was like, "You were the weirdest kid I have ever met." He was just like, what kid at 8 years old wants to be a journalist? But that's what I wanted to be very early on. And that's what I've become.
Was there a point in time where you just decided that you wanted to be a journalist, or like at 8 years old?
Literally at 8. Oh. Dad was like, you looked at me, you're like, I want to be a journalist, Dad. And then he's like, nothing else really. I wasn't one of those kids that kind of deviated a lot when I was younger. I'm like, I want to be a nurse or an astronaut or something. He's just like, that's what you want to do. That's what all my degrees have kind of been in. It's where I've ended up. So.
Which is phenomenal because people spend their lives searching for that one thing, right? And you've found it at 8 years old. So you've got some time on your hands.
I've got some time in my hands, but also I was saying to someone the other day, it's an amazing thing because not everyone gets that. So I'm very grateful for it. But at the same time, it meant if I didn't make it, it was, I don't know what else I would have done with my life. So there's a lot of pressure with that as well. So sometimes why couldn't I just be a hairdresser or something? I don't know. It would have been a lot easier.
It's not exactly an easy industry to crack, right?
It's such a hard industry to crack. A bit like the health and fitness industry, which is so saturated. And it's why I did an English undergrad degree because I was just a little bit worried. The plan was always to go back and teach if I didn't make it in journalism. So that's kind of why I did the 2 degrees. I had a very smart father that kind of made me have a backup plan, and it's how I've sort of worked throughout my whole career, is just always have a backup plan, which is probably good advice for others as well.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got there, but I've worked really hard and I've had a lot of luck as well. So no.
Luck's just opportunity meeting persistence, right?
Yeah, we can argue about that later. But yeah.
Okay, so what was your first role in journalism?
So I was super lucky / persistent. I straight out of my master's degree, about a month before I actually graduated, I started applying for jobs, and I just applied for everything. I seriously, if there was a potato magazine, I would have applied for a potato magazine. I didn't care where, I just wanted a foot in the door because in media, that's kind of, that first step is always the hardest, which probably any profession, but you just need to get in the door. And I was super lucky. I applied for a triathlon magazine. Actually, I don't run, I don't cardio, I lift weights. I don't really have any idea what is even involved in a triathlon. But I applied for it. It was an editor position, so it was way above my rank at the time. And I applied for it anyway. And then I got a call from the managing editor at the time, and he was like, look, I think, this is probably like way above your pay grade, but we have an assistant editor role. Well, it was not even that. It was like an editorial assistant role, like super junior, 40K a year, very, very junior. But it was on Women's Health and Fitness magazine, plus a couple of other health brands. So
Women's
fit
Health
perfectly.
first.
Yeah, so
Crazy.
fit perfectly. I was just super lucky. I didn't even realise it was under the same umbrella at the time. So that was my first role. So paid nothing, but I loved it. Yeah.
And how long did you spend at Women's Health?
I was there probably 2 or 3 years. So I was promoted pretty quickly and ended up in the editor-in-chief role for about a year and a half.
You would have had, and I would be so interested, I know that our listeners would be so interested, you would have had so many people approaching you to, get publications or whatever it is. What would you say to someone that is approaching, someone in your position to, get some type of release? What's some tips you could give them?
Like, I always kind of have the same tips, and like I probably need to change up, some of my answers. But I think I was getting I'd get at least 45 to 50 emails per day with pictures. So that's from PRs, so people that have representation, from managers, and then also just random people that have my email, because if you look at any magazine, my email's actually in the magazine. Probably shouldn't have said that. Don't email me.
500. So is that now, or was that back when you were working?
Yeah, so that Women's Health and Fitness was obviously a brand that went for over 20 years. So that was probably a bit different because it was a lot more well known. Now it's not quite as many. You'd probably be more closer to 15 to 20 because we're still fairly new. But I get a lot of inquiries, and I think the biggest thing for me, and this is for PRs too, that should know better because it's their job, but I get a lot of just really wordy kind of emails and releases. I always tell trainers or whoever wants to be in the media, you need to have elevator pitch, but you need your brand proposition in 4 sentences, like who you are, what you can offer and your point of difference, and put in there what you can offer the editor as well. Like, make it about them, not about you, is the only way you'll get published, because I'm just really busy. I don't, to be perfectly blunt, there's that many people out there that I just can't care about you. I only care about me. I'm so busy. So the trainers that work with me consistently are usually sort of in the media, are usually the ones that do a really good job, but who just make it about me. So they hit deadlines, can give me really good content, can give me ideas, because I'm so mentally drained sometimes that I can't come up with ideas. So if they can give me some really good ideas, that's a great way to sort of, that they would be my top tips. Make it simple and make it about the editor.
Okay. So you left the Women's Health and then you went on to do
so I went into content marketing for a little while, which was amazing because I sort of had only mainly a print kind of skill set, and went into content marketing. I was in agency side, didn't love it to be honest, but it taught me a lot, and I can do sort of a lot of the blogging and the content marketing now for websites and that kind of thing. Started up my own business while I was there because I saw sort of a gap in the industry where a lot of trainers and health professionals sort of had no idea how to market themselves or how to sort of...
Us? We had no idea.
I do a great job. What are you
now we're
about?
A little bit better now. I mean, we got you on the show, right?
3 years ago, not the same thing.
Not so much. But it's a learning curve, right? And I think like for me, the hardest thing, and it's probably like a lot of health and fitness brands feel the same, but I look at my knowledge and I just think everyone knows that. I have these moments where I'm like, everyone knows that you write, your brand proposition in 4 sentences, but I'm like, no, a lot of people have, why would they know that? So I think it's it's a learning curve, and you have to trust in what you know as well, and that it's actually different from the rest of the population. You've done a lot of work to get there, and I think, there's a learning curve for me and for trainers out there.
So when you pitch for, the personal trainer out there, right, or for the physio, when you're pitching to someone like yourself, you would say that a short kind of copy with clear, concise points is the way to go? Yeah,
definitely. I just don't have time to read really small text, and if it's this long, I just close the email. Seriously, I'll just delete it straight away.
It's like a bad resume, right? You're just deleting it.
Delete it, because if you're writing that smaller copy and it's like this, you're going to be no good for me
Yeah,
anyway. I know that you're not going to be articulate, you're not going to be able to
because you're so busy as well.
Yeah,
like you're reading this.
Yeah, I just don't have time. So just 4 sentences at the top, it needs to be really compelling. And I just tell people that, you know, through the 3 years, you guys have probably done that, just constantly refining it as well. The first time you write, it's going to be really shit, not going to lie, and then you just kind of refine it as you go along. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, and a few dot points. Have really good photos, like especially for magazines. If there's no photo, like a high quality photo from you, then it's not going to end up in the magazine. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but a lot of people just don't have the kind of...
I've never thought that. I didn't think of that properly.
That was just like
really?
wow, okay, we didn't even...
Mental note, take good photos.
Obviously, you're pitching to a magazine, you should have a photo.
Well, it's all about the images, like the image is kind of... And that's something I had to learn because I'm a word person. I'm not an actual that visual person, but it's something I had to learn from my first editor, who I worked under. So yeah, you've got to have good photos. If you can get a professional to do it, but like iPhones are so good at the moment.
They really are, aren't they? Everyone's now a producer, a content producer, just off of an iPhone. It's amazing.
It's ridiculous, really. But they are good enough to get high quality images for print. But there's nothing worse sometimes than me sort of interviewing someone and then getting to the end and be like, okay, have you got photography? Because I can't shoot everyone, obviously. And they've got nothing for me, or they've got this grainy kind of 200 kilobyte stuff, and I'm like, no, I can't do this.
So before you said you work an 88-hour week, before you started your own business, how many hours were you working?
Just my usual hours, So 9 hours a day kind of thing. But obviously I'm a part owner in Strong as well, so I play a pretty big hand in the coordination of our team. Most of the team I've handpicked, so I guess that's what I brought to the table for our business as well. And then my own business has done really well. I've dropped most of my clients now because I just can't sustain what I'm doing. I love it, but I can't sustain it. So, but I went from working a pretty normal week to 80-hour weeks.
That's quite ambitious, obviously, going from like a full-time thing to just doubling that pretty much. Yeah,
and I think it was just about, like, you probably gathered by now, I'm a plan B kind of person. I'm not going to go and just dive into something financially if I can't I need to see that it's going to work first. So I guess that's where I was. Other people aren't like that. They'll just do it and like all for them. Like my director's just done it. She's just she was a powerlifting coach. Like the main shareholder of Strong was a powerlifting coach, and she's just gone, quit her powerlifting clients, and she works on Strong full time, which is amazing. Like she's got 2 kids and a husband, and like I think that's amazing. It's not for me.
You just got to do what's for you, don't you?
Yeah, like you gotta, if you have kind of, it's a personality thing as well, I think. Like I've just always been the kind of person that has a plan B, but.
I just think that, a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, especially in the fitness industry, they're kind of worried about taking that leap. They might be comfortable in their full-time job, but you seem to have made it work whilst doing your full-time job?
I love to work. I know that sounds really stupid. I am actually incredibly lazy. Like I'm a bad trainer because like as soon as I get to training, I'm great. But I'd be like, I need you guys to come to me because I'm incredibly lazy about like moving my body or prepping my food and stuff. So lazy. But when it comes to working, I actually love to work. So I'm lucky in that sense. So that's how it worked for me. I guess for my director, Alicia, like I said, complete different personality. She just takes a leap and she goes with it. So you've got to find...
But for you, it didn't feel like that huge leap from...
I could just I worked out how many hours I needed and I fit them around my full-time job and it's worked for me because I've had none of the financial risk. I guess I've had just a time risk, which I would prefer personally. But
financial risk has been the financial stress is equivalent to torture, they reckon. So being able to remove that, is obviously a big benefit.
Well, I think I would have had. I've got enough anxiety as it is. I think I would have been just a complete mess, and I took many, many years to earn a decent wage. Like I said, I started on 42K. That's pretty standard for juniors in journalism. So especially that kind of job. So it's taken me a long time to earn what I'm earning now. I wasn't going to just like give that up to go into a magazine. So yeah, I just, each to their own.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to have a backup plan, I think.
So for someone who says, you said you're quite anxious, right? Jumping into a startup from a comfortable job, that's what most people struggle to do, that leap. Talk us through that journey.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
I'm still on that journey, Ethan. I'm actually like, I get anxiety about it every day. I think the biggest thing for me, I actually got a really good piece of advice from a friend. I was talking to another journalism friend, and like the biggest thing for me, because of the, I made sure I had a backup plan. I wasn't putting myself at financial risk. So I donate time to Strong, and that's why I'm a part owner. So I've never actually had an outlay of cash, which for me is the better way to go about things. So it wasn't so much that anxiety. My biggest anxiety was actually having people, it was sort of my reputation. I didn't want to fail at something. And like, I've never really understood when people said like they're scared to fail. I'm like, yeah, I've just done what I've done and gotten there. Like, I never understood it until someone said, okay, we're going to do this national magazine. Can you be editor-in-chief of it? And I'm like, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? And then I was scared to be embarrassed of it failing, which, you know, is still good. I don't know. It could fail tomorrow. And my friend is a journalist as well, and he had just said to me, he's like, Katelyn, there's like that many people around Australia that are literally sitting in dead-end jobs on the couch every night, hating their lives. Even if you fail, you've still done 20 times what they've done in the last 10 years. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so true. Like, who are they to judge me? And like, why do I care what they think anyway? Yeah. So, you know, I think people are just, you're always scared to fail and to take that leap. But most of the time people are just so supportive of you even trying, because they'd never do it. So I just think it was such a silly thing that almost held me back.
I think that's the most common thing that probably does hold people back, is that fear of failure.
Yeah. 100%.
You think so? Because I wasn't sure. I was like, maybe that's a personality trait about me, but says something about me, but maybe it's everyone.
Yeah, failure kills more dreams than laziness does, that's for sure. It's, you know, that biggest thing, I find that with most people wanting to do really any type of startup especially, it's that fear of going from that full-time job into that startup phase. But what you've said about how you've kept the full-time job, well, like that's such a great advice to someone, because people think it's a, you know, 0 to 100, but it doesn't have to be, does it?
100% can be a transition. Like, even like, I'm hoping this year to probably drop down to 3 days at my full-time job and do 2 days, just so I've got a bit of a life as well, because you do need that eventually. Like, I was happy to work 8-hour weeks for the first year, but I'm kind of over it now. So yeah, just find especially like, I feel like PTs and health and fitness is so much flexibility sometimes in the kind of hours you can do as well. Like, I have a very rigid 9-to-5 job, and then I have to kind of work around it. So it's a bit painful for me sometimes, but a lot of PTs can kind of work in amongst things, and you just need to learn to use your time efficiently. And I know I see your tips all the time about using time efficiently and planning things out. I think there's so many ways you can make it a transition phase, so it takes the anxiety out of it.
So with Strong, you know, I'd love to hear, how far along in the journey are you for Strong?
Yeah, so
for you personally.
So we bought the licenses April 2019, probably March 2019, the conversations were starting. And then we launched, like actually had mags on stands in October. So that's like a really short amount of time to put a magazine and business together. So I wouldn't recommend it. I probably wish, my biggest lesson would probably be that we'd waited a little bit longer and kind of launched in January. But anyway, you learn, we were impatient.
So why did you rush it? Was it just because you just wanted to get it out there, or you were
I think my director was really, really keen to just get it out to market, while we also, it was kind of strategic because Oxygen obviously went under, which was probably going to be our biggest competitor because we're a bit different from Women's Health. So they went under sort of around about the same time. So we're like, let's plug that hole kind of thing. Yeah. So it was sort of strategic, sort of impatience as well. We just like wanted to get it into market. And if you're working hard on something, it's hard to not want to do that, I guess. Like you guys would know.
that.
Yeah. Sometimes that can be the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you've really aligned your purpose with what you want to do, it's hard.
You don't want to wait around.
It's harder to step away than it is to actually get yourself to do it.
Yeah,
But like you said, in hindsight, sometimes it is better to have that patience. But it is really hard to kind of teach yourself that sometimes you got to wait. And you can't just launch it straight away.
And I'm a big believer, like, again, I think my director will be fine with me saying this, but we're very different personalities. So she's this like big creative thinker. She comes up with ideas. Sometimes I'm like, how did you even like come up with that? Because she just comes up with amazing ideas. Some aren't so amazing, but most of them are amazing. I'm not really like that. But I'm a great implementer. So I want things done properly. I really implement well. I'm good at coordinating people. I'm good with teams. So we sort of each bring something to it. But I guess that's where the kind of impatience went from. And then I was going, oh my goodness, no, we need to do this properly.
You need to like structure it.
Yeah, you need to find like a kind of middle ground between the two. Because I probably would have been one of those people where if you wait too long, I would have been like, oh no, this is too hard, can't do this. So almost getting forced to jump in was probably a good thing for me.
In
some ways. Yeah.
It's good to have that kind of like balance between, you know, someone that's willing to push and someone that's kind of like strategic and kind of...
Sounds a bit similar, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we've definitely got this like same kind of balance in our business.
Which one are you, Ash?
I'm the strategic kind of planning one. He's a cowboy.
I can see
I'm the cowboy, I'm the one that's like, hey, tomorrow we should go do this.
I get a text from
I
get a text from him like every day saying, got a new idea, and I'm like, just settle down. Just let's think about this.
Alicia would do that all the time. She'll email me, hey, just an idea, and it actually gives me anxiety now. Wait, I've got to like close that for a second.
You start to learn, hang on a second, man, let's just take it a step back.
Do the really basics really well. But yeah, there is something to that too, because without those creative people like you, Ethan, businesses wouldn't go anywhere anyway. So
and then without someone to implement it, they wouldn't go anywhere as well. Anyway. So it's a
there's
good
a real
balance.
lesson in that, right? Like if you're gonna build, a lot of, I know PTs will sort of make the leap and sort of run it by themselves for a while, but if you are going to build a team, make sure you have people around you that aren't the same as you. Like so many people, and I know Steve Jobs said it all the time, but so many people hire someone that's similar to them. Like that's great, but it's not going to really get you anywhere. Like hire the people that can do stuff that you can't do and do it really well.
Advice.
That's great advice. And when your business partner was looking for you, did they tell you ever why that they approached you? Was there specific?
Yeah, it's a bit of a long story, but I actually so when I was at Women's Health and Fitness, I speak on a media panel nearly every year for a photographer that runs a conference over in the US in Arizona. So he flies me out there for an editor's panel sort of most years. And there I met the editor-in-chief about 2 or 3 years ago of Strong in the US. So, and her and I, she's like my spirit animal. So she's about 10 years older than me, but she's exactly like me, which was weird. And so we got along like a house on fire. So when I stopped writing for Women's Health and Fitness magazine, I actually ended up writing for her. She said, we write for Strong Fitness magazine in the US. So I've been writing for that magazine for years.
Right.
So I had that on my LinkedIn. Again, importance of, that's a good lesson for people, like get your LinkedIn perfect, because I've gotten so many connections over the years and opportunities just from LinkedIn. I didn't really understand why that platform was so important until recently for business.
Such an underutilized platform.
When you say make it perfect, what pointers do you have for people for that?
Just make sure it's like up to date. I think a lot of people search now, and you know, the search terms obviously come from how much information's in there. Like mine used to just be really basic, and I'm from a social media world, so I don't know why that was happening, but I just sort of didn't regard it as important. And mine was just so basic, like, you know, my uni degrees and then my job, and like nothing really in there. I've now got, if you guys go onto my LinkedIn, like it's got everything in there. I've got all my jobs, what my duties were. I've went around and got references as well, and made sure I had a couple of people just give me really good references, especially from our own business, because you know it's.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And you are your business in a way, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to know, to vet me otherwise, unless there's kind of good reviews there. I've made sure I've got like heaps of writing samples. So
the organic reach as well through LinkedIn compared to any other social platform is phenomenal. I'm not sure if you found that, but any type of post does
really well. I noticed that. So it's kind of with Instagram, and like, I feel like Instagram's so saturated now. Sometimes, especially for new businesses, it can be really hard to kind of get a lot of traction there anymore.
Yeah.
Go LinkedIn. Like got sidetracked there, but yeah, I think LinkedIn's like probably the most underutilized platform.
Yeah, especially for people starting up, they don't even think about it. They're let's go get 5,000 followers on Instagram, but what does that actually translate to?
And I don't know if you get many sales from that, unless you like got really good content. But LinkedIn, people find me, like they search and they find me. So and that's how my director found me. So she actually searched and found Strong that way as well. She saw some of my writing samples, went, I love this, I love what this is capable of doing in this country, just like in the US and Canada, because it's been running there for 5 years. And she gave Strong a buzz over there, said, are you interested in selling licenses? And then she brought me on board and said, they basically referred her to me and said, look, Katelyn, would be great to run it for you. So it's all through LinkedIn. So yeah, get LinkedIn up to date.
And it's crazy because the magazine space, it's, people read magazines, but it's such a digital platform now, right? And that's where you'd find most of your viewers coming from an online.
Yeah, it's actually surprising. Like, we're really integrated. So I think actually it's actually a misconception, because the magazine industry goes up, like, I think about 2% every year or something.
Really?
So people actually don't realise it's not, print isn't dead, I don't think. So, I think everyone still loves reading a hard copy magazine. I think people also there's a reason trainers and health and fitness brands actually love being in a print platform. Like, they still pitch to me every day for a reason. And it's because I think people are getting more wary of the kind of information they're consuming on social media. Some of it's coming from people that aren't qualified. They're actually, some of them are going back to the
that makes total sense. Actually.
Like going back to print to kind of, because there is an editor-in-chief, there's a gatekeeper. I'm not going to let just anyone in.
It's validation.
It's validation.
Whereas in Instagram, there's so many kind of influencers putting all that shit out there right now.
7 tips to booty gains.
Oh
yeah.
Flooded that. So that makes total sense.
I don't
get
think
that.
people are stupid. Like, I think, we act a lot of the time like consumers are really dumb, and I'm like, eventually they're going to catch on. They're getting sold to a lot, and it's big business, Instagram. So we actually find we've sort of talked about it and structured the business is that we use the print medium as kind of a launch pad to make sure we look like a serious news outlet. And then most of our advertising is focused on digital. So, a lot of advertisers will actually come on board and they'll do a lot of integrated stuff. So they'll do a bit of print advertising, but most of our sales actually go onto our website, because, the print magazine is what gives our website authority amongst all the other websites, if that makes sense.
It's like the ultimate goal for a fitness professional. If, for example, if you're someone on Instagram and you've got the opportunity to be on the cover of a magazine, that is that's big stuff, right?
I think it's still, and that's the thing, people are like, the magazine industry, and I'm like, but people are still craving this stuff. So I don't know, like, it's a common misconception sometimes that print sort of, don't get me wrong, it is really tough. It's a tough industry to sort of break into properly, but if you're producing really good content, which I hope we are, there is room for people there, and I think there's a lot of people that still want it.
Speaking about that, so you said you kind of launched pretty quickly. Can you talk us through the growth of Strong since you started?
Yeah, like, we're only on 3rd issue, so it's just, we've sort of we've been going up and up, I guess. Like, I can't give you specific numbers or anything, but I think we've doubled our advertising for this issue, for our next issue 4, compared to issue 3, which is huge. So if we can keep doing that, that's amazing. I think, like, the most important thing for us is just seeing some sort of growth, we've had amazing industry people telling us how fantastic the content is. We've had really good feedback from the expos we've done from readers. We get a lot of really positive feedback from readers all the time through email and stuff. And then the numbers, we're obviously just keeping an eye on the numbers and the revenue. And we were starting from nothing, so we had pretty low expectations, but our expectations have definitely sort of been blown out of the water, which is great.
Amazing, great stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're just probably coming towards the end. There's a question that we wanted to ask, every last guest. Do you want to fire away?
Yeah, so
I'm scared.
Don't be. Or maybe a little.
if you were to give Katelyn an advice maybe like 10 to 15 years ago, what would it be?
Knowing what you know now.
Oh, that's a great question. Just to have, I know it's so cliched, but just have faith in yourself. Because I think 10 or 15 years ago, I just didn't think I was good at anything. I seriously thought I was just going to have to work really hard because there was a deficit there in sort of everything about me, how I looked, especially as a woman, like how I looked, how smart I was, sort of how determined I was, everything. I just thought there was a massive deficit there. So if I could shake that girl 15 years ago and just go just stick to your guns and kind of have faith in what you're doing, which I have done, but it's been a complete act, and there's been a lot of anxiety and a lot of tears and all sorts of things to do that. I think just understand that you can do whatever you want to do within confines, but you can do almost anything you want to do.
Trust
just
the
have
process.
faith in it. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Well, you've done a great job, and
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Katelyn.